Guy Kawasaki, welcome back to Built Not Born.
Hey, Joe, are you sure you press record?
I hit record. You got it. Thank you for the reminder. I hit record.
I have done things where I don't press record. Trust me, I've done it.
Oh, so I had Seth Godin on once and I didn't hit record and I almost had a panic attack. A panic attack. Because I'm like, oh my gosh, it's crazy. Yeah, but luckily I hit it in time. Oh my goodness. You just turn white, like everything, just your knees go numb. But Guy, real quick, for those looking to get to know Guy and his unbelievable Think Remarkable podcast and his awesome books, Wise Guy and Wiser Guy. And Guy, to be fair, I go back to What the Plus. I actually read that book. And I was
Oh
one of
my
the last
God.
I was one of the last people to shut the lights off at Google
You
Plus.
don't look that old.
I appreciate all your work, but today we have a guy to come on for the latest book that he wrote with Madison Neumiser. Everybody has something to hide, and why and how to use Signal to preserve your privacy, security, and well-being. Wow. So, Guy, crazy times with privacy. What made you pivot this way to write this book? Let's start with that.
Well, it was really a confluence of about two or three factors. So, above all, we are in very distressing times, and privacy, I think as privacy deteriorates, so does democracy, so does society. So, I think we really need a extremely private and secure messaging system. And people are deceiving themselves if they think that WhatsApp and messages are really secure. So that was motivation number one. Motivation number two is that because I feel that way, I started doing research and everything pointed towards Signal. So I started using Signal. And Signal is a beautiful piece of software, extremely well designed, very functional. And I have to tell you, even if it wasn't a security issue, let's say that, we weren't living in dystopian times, I would still love Signal. And so those two things. And then, I got interested in Signal. I was at South by Southwest. I interviewed the president of Signal for South by Southwest. And she's an extremely, extremely intelligent person. So all these things said, Guy, you're at the end of your career. Royalty doesn't really matter anymore. You should write a book about Signal to make the world a better place. And that's where it's at.
Wow. You evangelized for Apple, now for Canva. Why at this moment did you realize you need to evangelize for personal privacy now?
I mean, just read the newspaper.
Yeah.
It's kind of a duhism of a question. And I really think so. And, I would be saying this regardless of your political leanings, because the test for text messaging is now, pretend you're driving down the freeway and you see a billboard and you see your text message. And if you can tell me that every text message you've ever sent or received, you'll see it on the billboard. You say, no big deal. There's nothing wrong with that. Right. I mean, I don't know. I wouldn't pass that test. And, it's not like I'm trying to overthrow the government or I'm trying to, do a drug deal, but there's lots of things. And I'll give you a good case. Let's just say we share some probably university housing experience.
Mhm.
And for the life of me, it's a very difficult housing experience at the university we share. And my kid could not figure it out. And quite frankly, I don't blame him. So at one point, I said, send me your username, send me your password, and I will figure it out for you. Now, is that a crime? No. But would you want your son's username and password on that billboard? I don't think so. And, your son is in college. My son is in college. And dad, we got to buy a surfboard. We got to buy a moped. We got to buy a bike. We got to buy books. Whatever. Right. And And the people or the companies they want to buy from, they don't exactly have e-commerce set up. So you're saying, "Oh, you know what the hell? Here's the number,
Mhm.
here's the expiration date, here's the secret code. Just use my Visa." I mean,
Yeah.
that's also something you wouldn't want to see on that billboard.
Yep.
So, it's things like that. It's not just let's do this drug deal or
Yeah. That's so true. It's so true because you feel so comfortable sending stuff over passwords. Here's my password. My son will be like, "Hey, what's our Netflix password or something?" And you text it to him, and
exactly.
it's like the
Right,
whole,
right.
and then someone's got your Netflix password now, and it's crazy. And then how does Signal different from? I'm very familiar with WhatsApp. I've heard of Signal, but never used it. I think when I use WhatsApp, I'm secure. Like, how are the two different?
Well, okay, so it depends on your level of paranoia. So lots of people say that we're end-to-end encrypted, WhatsApp messages, and Signal. So there's kind of two aspects to encryption. So one is end-to-end encryption of the message itself, but there's also the issue of how much metadata does the company keep. So
Mhm.
Signal keeps three pieces of information: when did your account get open? When did you last use it? And what's your phone number? And Meta keeps a lot more, like nine more pieces of information. So you might say, like, what's so bad about that? Well, that kind of information can show, who you interacted with, what time, what day, where, all these kind of things. And when you watch these crime movies, every crime movie, yeah, they have a wiretap. And the wiretap is like, if you had a wiretap and your phone call was encrypted, the guys listening to the wiretap could not understand it, but they're still going to subpoena AT&T and Verizon and get the call records, right? And from the call records, they're going to say, all right, so on this day, you called this person, you called them every 5 minutes. And after the next day, there was an explosion by that guy. So, you're obviously part of that explosion or that crime. And they're building up all this kind of case for using all this data to prove you were where and when and associated. So that's the metadata. So that's it. That's one issue.
Mhm.
And then, quite frankly, Meta and these companies that do this, their profit motivation is to monetize your data. And so let's just put it plainly: if you're working with if you're using a company service and the company's business model is to monetize your data, you better think twice about what's happening to your data. And
Mhm.
Signal is a not for profit organization. The third factor is Signal has submitted their source code for independent audit and it's open source. So,
Mhm.
if Signal says we're doing something and the open source community says, no, you're not, they're going to be called on the carpet. You cannot see the source code of Meta. So you just never know. Like, okay, I grant you, this is a little paranoid, but these are paranoid causing times.
Thanks for walking us through that. Say the average person's like, "Guy, I really have nothing to hide, but I see where you're going." What's the first like small win or first step the average person would take to say, "You know what? I want to protect my basic data. I don't want my Netflix password on a billboard." What's the first step they should take?
Besides the obvious, my recommendation is use Signal right
Hmm.
now. So let's suppose that the person just will not use Signal for whatever reason, which
Hmm.
I can't think of a reason why you wouldn't use Signal. But anyway, so let's suppose that Signal is off the table.
Yep.
Boy, I tell you, if I were trying to get my Netflix password account and password user ID and password to my son, I probably would call him instead of texting him
Hmm.
or emailing him. Email might be the worst one because if you
Yeah.
think about it, if you use Gmail, Google has everything in Gmail, like
Mhm.
everything. So yeah, the odds are not very high that you have a wiretap on you and they're going to listen for your Netflix password, Joe. I mean,
I'm Italian from Philly. You don't know. You don't know what the DA's doing in Philly. You know what I mean?
yeah, that's true. I never thought of that. You're right. You're right. I stand corrected.
But you're right. That's that. And then now for the use signal, like, so is it just like WhatsApp where everyone, so if I wanted to send a use signal, just everyone that I communicate with needs signal as well, right? So if I send a message on signal, they have to have the signal app to download for me to
Yeah.
connect with them
So
over signal. Gotcha.
Therein lies the biggest problem, Joe, because the probability of your son and your daughter and your wife being on Signal today is zero, right?
Mm,
So you're going to have to convince them all to add this thing.
mm,
And that is the hardest part of Signal. WhatsApp, it's very likely that someone is on Facebook and therefore can easily be on WhatsApp. But
yeah.
Signal is a whole different world that you'd have to add this app and learn this and all this kind of stuff. But, the downside is there if you don't do that, and the upside is there for a little bit of trouble. Don't get me wrong, Joe. I haven't even been able to convince my own family to get on Signal.
Sure. Isn't it crazy? Like you could evangelize the world and have everyone have a MacBook like me for the last decade, but you can't convince your kids to do it.
At least my kids are on Macintosh and iPhone. I mean,
Oh, so
I
good.
would,
Oh my God, so good.
and they use Canva. If I were like 0 for 3 there, I would kill myself. But anyway.
Canva is so good. That's such a secret weapon. It's so easy to use. It just makes you look like a graphic designer with like very little effort and knowledge, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Right? Great job
Yep.
with that. And real quick about your creative process, right? So you write the book with Madison. How do you decide who writes what chapter, who edits what? Like, how do you go about a
So
two-person that? How's that work?
I believe that it's very hard for two people to write a book because it's like, so how do you divide it up? You say, all right, so you write these chapters and I'll write these chapters, or, you write the first paragraph, I'll write the second paragraph or whatever. So basically, I believe one person should write the book. So I wrote the book, but Madison is this most amazing young person I've ever met. And she is my devil's advocate. She's my researcher. She's my grammar checker. She's a, fact checker and all that. And, a lot of stuff that is in the process of writing a book is not just writing. There's a lot of stuff that has to be done. And she excels at all that. Yeah, so that's how it. And I got to tell you that, Joe, this is I think it's my 18th book.
Wow.
And I wrote a lot of business books. And when you write a business books, let's just be honest, Joe, you can just make up a lot of shit, right?
Mhm.
Because I can tell you this story about Steve Jobs, and this proves this. I can tell you this story about Amazon, and this proves this. And it's like very kind of subjective and not exactly scientifically sound and blah blah blah. But writing this book, the goal is that when I tell you, you press this, you press this, you change this, you press this. I have absolutely step by step, absolutely directions at the most tactical level, because there's a lot of times when I have to do technical things, and and you go to a site and it says, yeah, go to your system preferences, click on printer, click on add-on printer, click on default, click on this. And I'm like looking like, where the hell is that menu? And then the company changes the text slightly and all that. So one thing that people will notice in this book is right up front, we tell you, okay, so we're going to divide a phone screen into 6 pieces:
Mhm.
top, middle, bottom, left.
Mhm.
And so now when we tell you press on the settings button and we tell you it's bottom right, you know exactly where to look for, right? Because sometimes even I do it when somebody says press on this button. I know the button's there, but for the life of me, I cannot find it. So if you just told me bottom right, it would be a lot more helpful. So anyway, the bottom line is I had to be very careful, step by step. This is not just making shit up in a business book.
Yeah. And I love it. You said like things change. And like if you see an update, send it to us and we'll update the file, which is really cool. Because you hate when someone gives you a step by step, they'll go click the blue box in the right corner, and there's no blue box in the right corner because like the format changed 3 times since that version came out, right?
Yeah.
It just drives you crazy. Nah, that's great. And then also
Well,
to
that's why we did it Kindle first,
Mhm.
because imagine if you went hardcover, and so now, in some warehouse there's 20,000 copies, and it might take 6 months to sell them, and
Mhm. Yeah.
revising a printed book is not that easy, if ever.
No, it's so expensive too. You mentioned you have 18 business books. You wrote so many bestsellers like Wise Guy, amazing, Wiser Guy, Think Remarkable, love it. Two things. One, you mentioned about like there's a lot of crap in business books. I think we spoke about this one of the last times you were on. Your books are brief, they're concise. They're not like 6,000 pages. Like you can read your books in a sitting or two and it's all meat. And that's purposeful, right? There's really no
Very
BS in your books. It's like straight advice coming right at you, like
well.
smacks you in the face.
Joe, basically, I write the books that I want to read, right?
Mhm.
So, as a podcaster, we get pitched about 10 times a day by guests, and 9 of those 10 have a book. And so we got to look at a lot of books. And so, all these books are coming in, and we have to decide. And then, even after you decide, which you can decide by just kind of leafing through, but after you decide, you actually have to read the whole book to do the interview, right? And I got to tell you, when I get a book that is pages and pages of long paragraphs,
Mhm.
there's no section headings, there's no bullet items, there's no organization. It's just like it's like reading Tolstoy, right?
Yeah,
Except
hard.
it's not fiction. And I swear to God, if you are an author and you're trying to get on my podcast and you send me a book that doesn't have headings and bullet items, just don't even bother, because
Mhm.
I am not going to read that book.
Yeah, understood. And you wrote your 18th book. You have bestsellers. You have books that just changed the way people think. How did you decide to give this one away for free? I mean, you could probably charge whatever you want, and your tribe is going to
Well,
buy this book.
again, there's several factors here. So, yeah, this is my 18th book. I'm 71 years old. And let's just be candid here. Canva has been very, very good to me. So, whether I make a penny on this book does not matter at all. In fact, I can tell you, between the layout and the copy editing and content editing and proofing and design and translation to Spanish and all that, probably cost me $20,000 to do this book. I've been
Wow.
researching it for 9 months. It's a very expensive hobby. But as I said at the very top of the show, I kind of believe that my obligation now is to help society. And the way to help society is not to try to sell books. Right now, for first 5 days, it's free. I hope hundreds of thousands of people buy it for free, because what I'm trying to help is people to improve their privacy. I'm not trying to improve my bank account.
Mhm.
When I die, Joe, I want people to say more than, yeah, guy made a lot of money. He made crypto successful. He named a building after himself, and he muscled his way into politics, and he ensured that long-term capital gains was low for venture capitalists. That's what he did. And like, I don't give a shit about any of those. I just
Perfect.
want to be remembered for making the world a better place. So that's why it's free right now. Now, the way Amazon Kindle works, you can only give it away free for the first 5 days in any 90-day period. So this period expires on February 2nd. So if you want this book for free,
Mhm.
you better jump on it. Now, on February 3rd, the price is going to rocket up to this extremely high price of $4.04. And computer nerds will get that, because when you 404 on a website, it means you go to a page that you cannot read and you
Uh,
cannot see the information. And that's kind of a joke between me and people that, yeah, he priced it at 404 because that means you cannot access it. And that's what privacy is, right?
that's so true. I appreciate that. Guy, we'll do wrapping up here. Wanted, since just the third time you're on Built Not Bored, so honored to have you as a guest. Have some fun questions, kind of some rapid fire. Stole some of these from Tim Ferriss. Some of these I made up on my own, but just wanted,
Wait, wait, wait.
yeah.
Tim Ferriss told you to what? To ask
Oh,
me?
no, Tim, I'm a big fan of his and I'm just watching his
Oh,
show for
okay.
years. Grab some questions from him, which I love, and wanted to run them by you to see what you think. Is that cool?
Well, I tell you something. I work more than 4 hours a week.
Okay.
Just let's just be upfront here.
We'll call him out there for. How about this? Here's the first one. How about Guy? What purchase of $100 or less has most positively impacted your life?
That's pretty low number there, Joe. um, tell you what. In about 1987, my wife bought me a book called If You Want to Write by Brenda Ullin. And this is a book by a writing instructor at the University of Minnesota. And the gist of this book is if you want to write, write. You don't have to get a degree. You don't have to get permission. You don't have to get permission from your own ego. Take away the doubt. If you want to write, for crying out loud, just write. So my wife gave that to me as I was starting my writing career, but it applies to anything creative. If you want to take pictures, if you want to podcast, if you want to be an
Mhm.
entrepreneur, you want to be a programmer, just freaking do it. You don't need to get a degree and permission. So that book is, I don't know, 12.95. So, whatever. So, yeah, I think that is the most impactful thing under $100 that I've ever got. And like fact, I just saved everybody $88. I don't even need
I know. 80
$100.
maybe put it in the bank. That's going to buy a surfboard, put it towards a surfboard. That and then you mentioned your podcast, Remarkable People, some of the best work you've ever done. What have you learned since you started the podcast? What has that taught you, and what kind of
Oh,
impact do you hope it leaves?
how long you got? I mean, I had 350 guests. So listen, I mean, all the things that I learned, Madison and I, we put it into a book, and the book is called Think Remarkable. So if you want to learn what's in the podcast, that book is not free. You
Yeah.
you go read Think Remarkable. Although I can tell you a way that you can get all the knowledge that I learned in Think Remarkable for in my podcast for free, which is I decided that I was going to create Kawasaki GPT. So if you go to Kawasaki GPT, it contains all my writing, my speaking, my videos, and every transcript. So you literally can go to kawasakiGPT.com and ask me as if you're asking me.
So
And to
cool.
tell you how good that thing turned out, Joe, when I have to write an article or something or Substack newsletter, the first step is we go to Kawasaki GPT and we ask Guy. So Kawasaki GPT is better at being Guy Kawasaki than Guy Kawasaki. There is no doubt in my mind.
That is awesome. I'm going to put that book, If You Want to Write, and the Kawasaki GPT in the show notes. I didn't know that existed. I got to check that out. That is awesome. We spoke about we both have kids in college in Oahu. What advice would you give to our college grad, maybe who's graduating this May, about to enter the real world? What advice would you give them?
Yeah, so I would not tell my kids this, but first of all, you should stretch out college as long as you can. Don't be in such a rush to get out into the real world. I mean, I would say college is one of the happiest times in your life. You ought to stretch it out. And, Guy and Joe were working our asses off so you can go to college. So,
Yeah.
don't deprive us of the satisfaction of giving you a 5-year education. That's step number one. Step number two is I think at the end of a college experience, everybody's looking for that perfect job. Well, maybe not anymore because it's so hard to get a job. But there used to be this theory: I got to find this perfect job that matches my skills and my interests, and blah blah blah.
Mhm.
And I'll tell you something: it's total bullshit because a kid who is in college today is going to live to 95 or 100, and in the next 80 years you're probably going to have 10 or 15 jobs. You're not going to even remember the first job you had. And so at the age of a college graduate, I think the number one priority for you is to collect data. And you collect data, and I think you just take all kinds of jobs and you scratch a lot of itches, and you're trying to find something that really interests you and might even become a passion. But to think that, oh my God, I got to get on the fast track. I'm 22 years old. I got to get that internship at McKinsey. I
Mhm.
got to get that internship at Goldman Sachs. I got to get that internship at Google or my life is doomed. Your life is just starting, pal. I mean, you
Mhm.
just chillax. I could make the case that let's take the worst case, right? So your kid and my kid, they graduated from the University of Hawaii. They cannot get a job at McKinsey or Goldman Sachs or, whatever, any of those. But they get a job at Zippy's. Now, you might not be familiar, but in Hawaii, Zippy's is like, it's hard to describe. It's like the best local food. I think they have about 30 of them. And so, you ask your son about Zippies, he'll tell you about Zippies. So now,
Mhm.
let's suppose they both graduate and the only job they can get is at Zippies. And you think, oh my God, I spent $250,000 sending my kid to college and now he's flipping burgers and, selling fries. I could make the case that over the course of your lifetime, you might say, that first job out of college when I worked for Zippy's was a really important experience because I worked in the front of the house at where you take the orders. I had to learn how to communicate and operate as a team player with the back of the house because if the chef didn't like you,
Yep.
he wasn't going to send your order out first. So I had learned how to be a team player. I had to learn how to communicate with people because people come in and say, well, I don't know what I want to eat, and I don't know how to pay and, blah, blah, blah. So you learn how to interact with people and then you give them their meal and they say, no, I ordered it medium rare. It's well done. I want it back. So, you learn all this customer service and hand to hand combat. And you're thinking, at one level, you're thinking, oh my God, why did I go to college to flip burgers? But I should be at McKinsey or Goldman. But, at McKinsey or Goldman, you're learning that your shit doesn't stink and you're
Mhm.
flying around a freaking Gulf Stream and you're sucking up to some old white guy and,
Mhm.
whatever. All you do is crank Excel spreadsheets all day.
Mhm.
And pretty soon you learn that, you're omniscient and omnipotent because you work for Goldman Sachs and blah, blah, blah. And, the rest of your life are all messed up. As we say in Hawaii, to use pigeon, more better you work Zippies than Goldman Sachs.
Thanks for sharing. That's so true because you learn so much from just interacting with people, that angry person at the counter, that unrealistic person who comes in a bad mood and says something
Yeah.
crazy to you, how do you got to keep your cool. Like you learn so much and stuff like that, don't you? It's so true.
Yeah.
It's so true. And it's stuff you bring with you for your whole life,
Oh,
right?
and at McKinsey and Goldman, all you're going to learn is how to suck up.
Yeah. If yeah, Duke, that's great. Now, thanks for sharing that. How about you, Guy? When you feel overwhelmed or unfocused, what do you do?
I never feel overwhelmed or unfocused.
Nice. Nice.
No, Joe, I'm not bullshitting you.
Yeah.
Those
Right.
emotions do not come to me. I am,
Awesome.
I am OCD. I
Yeah.
am extremely high energy. I am really detail oriented. I don't know. I don't really remember feeling overwhelmed or unfocused. And I'll tell you a funny story. So, I have this circle of friends and they call me the Energizer Bunny because I'm up at, I don't know, 5:30 and I'm at the coffee shop and I'm just pounding away at my computer and I can sit at that computer for 3 or 4 hours without even standing up. And, I can work, Joe. My secret to success is I can work. I can outwork almost anybody. So anyway, so that's my reputation, Guy the Energizer brother. So then I started getting these headaches in the morning. And I tell my Kaiser doctor, I got a lot of headaches. Something's wrong. She said, I think it's because you probably have sleep apnea. And I said, my wife says I snore all the time. She doesn't even want to sleep in the same room with me. And she goes, yeah, I think you have apnea. So you go to the Kaiser sleep lab, you sleep in the lab with all the wires hooked up to you, which is an out of body experience. And the diagnosis comes back and they say, Guy, your oxygen level is only 66%. And in an hour, you have 34 times that you stop breathing. You have severe apnea. So, okay. So then they said, Guy, you got to get your ass on a CPAP.
Wow.
So now I have a CPAP right over there. And so now I'm using this CPAP and I go from 34 times an hour to 2 times an hour. And so they said, when you get a CPAP, you're going to be more productive. You're going to be more cheerful. You're going to be more hardworking. You're going to be more clearly thinking. And, you can just do much more during the day because you got a good night's sleep. And I tell my friends that I go, oh shit, Guy, you are so freaking productive and the energizer bunny. What are you gonna do when you're a CPAP? And like, oh my God. And then so now we're in the perfect storm because I'm on the CPAP. I'm not stopping breathing 3 or 4 times an hour. And when I came to Hawaii, I pulled my sciatica surfing. So, for 10 days, I couldn't do anything.
Ooh.
I could barely walk out of the building, right? So now we have the freaking perfect storm, Joe. You have a person who's on CPAP, totally productive, totally rested, totally focused, and cannot surf. I got freaking 20 hours a day I can do stuff. So I'm the most productive I've ever been right now.
You're freaking rolling. That is awesome, man. That's so good. The energy. What do you? I feel like you. Like right now, I'm in my 50s, and I feel like you. I feel a lot of energy. Where do you think that comes from? You think that's genes, like your diet, the way you keep after your health? Where do you think all that energy comes from that you have?
I think it's the mushrooms.
Yeah, some shrooms. Let's go. Let's go.
I really don't know. I mean, it's I cannot explain it to you. It's just
Mhm.
there. I
Mhm.
don't, it's not like I went to some Tony Robbins,
Yeah.
offsite
So
and
walking on some
yeah,
poles.
hold up your hand and everybody say, I can do this. And then look to your right, look to your left, tell the person next to you, you can do this. You can do this. I believe. I never did any of that. I mean, Steve Jobs was telling me you're a piece of shit guy. I mean,
And you mentioned pound the coffee. What's the best coffee on the island? Someone goes to Oahu. Where do they got? Where they got to go? Where's their stop?
ooh, baby. Okay, so seemingly simple question. Now, first of all, I think I have long COVID, so I cannot tell you what good
Well,
coffee tastes like.
5 year COVID.
Yeah, I'm not a foodie, right? So, I go to the coffee shop and they say, "Well, do you want the Nigerian one or the Guatemalan one or the Kona one?" I said, "I don't know. I cannot tell the difference. Just put the freaking thing in the cup and leave enough room for the cream. I cannot tell. I cannot tell pour over from cold brew from whatever." So anyway, so with the caveat that guy doesn't know shit about what coffee should taste like, I will tell you if you want to have the best setting for work
Mm,
and good Wi-Fi access, I would work in the lobby of the Moana Surf Rider.
nice.
If you want the best access, like 1 megabit access, not crowded, lots of plugs, and really easy parking, there is a place called RISE Cafe in Kaimuki, which is about 2 miles from Waikiki. Yeah. And in the Ala Moana Shopping Center, Nordstrom has a good coffee shop. Honolulu Coffee has a good coffee shop. And there's one outside above the watch store. Well, I don't know what the watch store is. It's around the corner from Uniqlo because I
Mhm.
go to Uniqlo all the time. So, I mean, actually, Joe, I have many people ask me about Hawaii. So I wrote a manual about where to
Really?
eat and where to work in Hawaii. Yeah.
Where
I'll
can
send
someone
it
get
to
that?
you.
Yeah, thank you. Oh my God, I'll put that to use. And I ran into the Kona coffee. I think Kona Joe's, I forget what it's called. Love the Kona coffee. That is just
Yeah.
magic. And that, like when you walk outside the Moana Surf Rider, isn't that coffee shop to the left as you're walking out,
Yeah.
right? Like that one. That one is
Well,
that the one you're
but
talking about? Is
yeah,
that the,
you
okay.
know, you know what the beauty of that coffee shop is? For those of you coming from the mainland where your body is 2 hours later than,
Mm,
Hawaii, or for you coming from Philadelphia, your body is 5 hours
yeah.
different, right?
Yep.
Honolulu Coffee in the Moana Surf Rider lobby opens at 5:30
Let's go.
a.m.
Perfect.
Yeah. And at 5:30 a.m., it's packed
Yeah.
because all you
Yeah.
howlies are in there from the mainland.
You wait in line. You go out 6 in the morning. There's 23 people in line, and you have to wait 15 minutes at 5. It's so crazy. That's great. Here's one. Here's one asking for a friend. If you're say 50 something years old and you want to start surfing with your son who just took it up, any advice for the dad at 50 something years old to start surfing? What
Well,
advice
first
would
of
you
all,
give?
I started at 60. So,
Whoa.
yeah. I would say the first thing you have to understand is you need to start on a long board.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
when I say long, I mean minimum 10 feet. Now,
Okay.
The problem with many surfing or people trying to take up surfing is everybody knows a good surfer, right? So you go to the good surfer and you say, help me start surfing. And your good surfer is like a 25-year-old kid and he's using a 5-foot board and he's like doing turns and 360s and all of this kind of stuff, right? And he's saying, yeah, you're 50 years old. You're starting surfing now. 5 feet is too short for you. I think 8 foot is good enough for you. Well, 8 foot is not good enough. You start with 10. And you have to understand some basic things about physics, which is that the wider the board, the more stable it is. If it's too wide, it's too hard to paddle. The longer the board, the faster and easier it is to paddle. But if it's too long, you cannot turn it. So when you consider all that, trust me when I tell you, Joe, just start on a 10-foot board.
10-foot board.
Yeah. And one thing I learned surfing or trying to become a surfer, which I have not yet achieved, but anyway, is that just you have to make a fundamental choice, Joe. Either you can look cool on the street carrying your shortboard because you're a badass surfer carrying the short, or you can catch a lot of waves on a longboard. You need to make a choice. Do you want to look cool on the street or have a lot of fun? Those two things are mutually exclusive for a starter.
Yeah, that's great advice. The last time we were out Waikiki, we took a lesson at the Royal Hawaiian, and it just happened to be the person, when we met the instructor, he said, Joe, and I was with my family, they're like, today's a little different. We have 6-foot swells, which we usually don't have this time of year. He goes, we don't want to cancel you, but we want to let you know that. I didn't know what a 6-foot swell was. And this is our one day to surf in Hawaii. And we're like, no, we're going. We're here. The workplace is beautiful. We go out there, got destroyed, like just like ego gone, crushed. I've trained jujitsu. There's my mat. I've trained Gracie jujitsu for 20 years. I have not been that destroyed on the jujitsu mat. Just absolutely destroyed. And then at the very end, whatever left of my ego, after about the 90-minute lesson, there was a one wave that I actually caught. I caught it and I'm riding it and I'm like on top of the world. I'm riding it. I see the Hawaiian to the left. I see the Moana to the right. I'm surfing right in the middle. I go, you know what? I'm taking this right into the beach like a boss. I had no idea that when the fins hit the sand, it's like an ejection port. Like I didn't know you had to jump off before. I took it and the fins hit the sand. It like that you threw me out of a helicopter. Like I hit the ground so hard. I felt it for the rest of the trip. It was almost like a free safety in football tackled me going over the middle. Oh my gosh, it's so
Ronnie Lott.
Oh my God, it's Ronnie Lott. Like Ronnie Lott caught me like as I extended for the ball over the middle. And anyway, surfing is awesome, but it's so humbling. And
surfing is the most fun you can have legally. I mean, it is truly addictive. If I had taken up surfing when I was younger, I would not be on this show. I would be working at Starbucks Waikiki right now.
Just surfing all the time, right? Wow.
Joe, I took up surfing at 60. I think I surf about no shit. I'm not shitting you. I surf about 250 days a year.
That is awesome.
I surf literally every day in Santa Cruz when I'm there. And if I don't have a pulled sciatica, I would surf every day in Waikiki. Wow. So, I mean, it's better than drugs. It's better than gambling. It's better than a mistress. It's better than a lot of things. So.
Wait, how do you feel? Can you surf now? Are you healed up? Or is the sciatica healed up? Can you
if I had to, Joe, I could probably surf today. But then if my wife found out, she would kill me. So it's not worth it.
Not worth it. I've been there. It ain't worth it. That is awesome, guys. So great. Guy, just wrap it up here. Guy, we spoke about a lot. Your amazing career at Canva, at Apple, your writing career, Remarkable People podcast, which is just epic. If you could have everyone listening take just one lesson away from everything we discussed, what would that lesson be?
Don't quit Apple. I'm the schmuck who quit twice and turned down a third job.
And don't forget to tell the chairman, we don't trust you, or I don't trust you either. Right? That great story. Oh my gosh.
I, I would own the Moana today.
Great stories, though.
Okay.
You wouldn't have the great stories, though.
Okay, I'll give you a serious piece of advice. The serious piece of advice is never ask people to do something you yourself would not do.
Mhm.
That is a very good way to lead your. This assumes you're not a psychopath, right? So, like, I got to tell you, like, just this morning, I'm trying to sign into Google, right? And they give you this freaking CAPTCHA. And the word is like it's all curved together. And it's like, there's no way. I did it 6 times before I got the CAPTCHA right. I mean, who at Google said, yeah, let's just make everybody do CAPTCHA 6 times. And then after a while, it says, you tried too much. You got to try again in a few hours. And I'm like,
How frustrating is that? You're like, that's a C, or like, I have no idea what that letter is. Like, you
yeah,
have
is it
no
a
idea.
capital C or
no idea.
lowercase c? Yeah,
You
yeah.
put that, and it's always right before you need something that you got to get done in 2 minutes for a client or customer or your freaking vice president. And it's like, is that an X or is that an R? I can't tell. Like, it's so frustrating. Oh my gosh, Guy. So, Guy, if people are looking for you and the Remarkable People podcast and the books and everything you got, where can we find you?
Oh man, I hope people will hear this before February 2nd, because if they do, the book Everybody Has Something to Hide will still be free on Amazon. So go to Amazon and download it for free. I mean, what's the downside that? I think the best work I am doing right now is my podcast, and that is at remarkablepeople.com. I have a website, guykawasaki.com, but that's kind of brochureware like everybody else's, right? So if you really want to see what I'm up to, it's the Remarkable People podcast. This book, which I think may be the most important book I've ever written of the 18, because it has the most potential to help society, is on Amazon. And it's either free or $4.04. And that's about it. Yeah. If all of that doesn't work, just go to Kawasaki GPT and interact with me.
That is cool. I'm going to put all that in the show notes. Guys, I want to end with one quote I just love from the book. This is from Guy, and this is from Guy's latest book with Madison. Everyone has something to hide. Why everyone should switch to Signal for communication. And Guy's quotes, one sentence: everybody has something to hide, not because they've done something wrong, but because privacy equals freedom. The guest is the one and the only Guy Kawasaki. Guy, so awesome to see you. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for denting the universe again and again and again. And hey, thanks for the Oahu recommendations. I can't wait to jump into them.
And I will see you in March.
Yeah. Oh, that would be amazing. Yes. Oh my gosh. Yes. And I'll send you I'll send you an email. Maybe we can connect our sons. And that would be amazing.
Yeah. Okay, funny story, but right now I sent so many emails out about this new book that I got locked out of Gmail.
Did you really?
Yeah, and I cannot figure out how to get back in. So
really?
You send me before I came on, I sent you an email from my .mac account, right?
Okay.
So send it to that, because I don't know when I'm ever going to get back in my Gmail.
Gmail's out. Good. You can't figure out how to log back in. They lose you. Cool. I'll send it to your Mac account. Absolutely. Okay. Awesome, Guy. Mahalo. I appreciate you. Look forward to seeing you in March. And I guess the hands are open, right?
I'll take you to Zippy's.
Let's go. We're in. We're in. I look forward to it. Thank you, sir. I'll see you in a couple of weeks.
Bye, Joe.
See you. Take care. Thank you, Guy. You're awesome. Thank you. Mahalo.
All righty.